2025, 3:31 p.m., and we're honored to be gathered on the traditional territories of the Skokomish Nation. We first need to approve the agenda. Moved by Councillor D'Andrade, seconded by Councillor Thompson. All those in favor? The motion carries. And first up on our delegations, we've got Chief Rob Michael with the Quarter 3 report for 2025 from the Gibsons and District Volunteer Fire Department. Go ahead.
Thank you. Can you believe it? Quarter 3.
I know.
Thank you for the opportunity. I want to advise membership is currently at 46 members, which includes our 8 new recruits. It's even with the previous quarter, and our recruits are set to graduate tomorrow, so they'll be responding to calls very, very soon. And a recruitment drive is underway to maintain full capacity. Paid on call has been successfully implemented on time and on budget. The focus of training for this quarter was vehicle rescue, first responder, marine and firefighting, public education, and fire officer and instructor development. The fire department responded to 101 calls for service in the third quarter, including a pedestrian struck by a motor vehicle, a rescue of a patient that had fallen over an embankment, smell of gas inside a structure, and a mutual aid call to Roberts Creek to assist with the structure fire, where the crews assisted with rescuing the family pet. The fire prevention team completed 82 fire and life safety inspections and 5 referrals, and the department was busy last quarter preparing for Fire Safety Week. And I'm happy to answer any specific questions on fire department activities or projects.
Thank you. Since you just mentioned it, could you, I'm trying to think of where that pedestrian struck by a motor vehicle would have been, and we're always advocating to the MOTT about highway safety, so
Yeah,
we need to be concerned about it within the town as well, so.
Yeah, we had a couple. The one that I'd mentioned here was actually in the Sunnycrest Mall parking lot itself.
Oh, okay, so that, the significant, yeah, that was, that. I've always got to be reminded what quarter 3 is too.
Yeah.
How far back do I have to remember? Yeah, okay, so that was, yeah. Okay, so that wasn't a highway incident, that was within the parking lot, yeah. Okay, thank you. Other questions? Councillor D'Andrade.
Thank you, Mayor. There's a table about the Fire Smart outreach, and I was just curious. I mean, the District of Sechelt has they've done public engagement, community assessment, wildfire mitigation program, and mitigation treatments, but the town has only done public engagement. So I don't know if a question for staff or the chief, but I was just curious.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. We find this to be a bit cyclical. The way the Fire Smart team represents themselves is they're opportunistic feeders. So if we have events in certain jurisdictions, they'll try to capitalize on that. So most recently, I believe it is a fourth quarter, but they were at Quality Farms for the fall fair. I had a presence there. And I think highlighted in the report here was Sherwood Grove was renewed as a Fire Smart community. So there are lots of activities happening within Gibsons, but I do try to highlight that regional component of it as well. So I like to see a little bit more of a spacing out, but you'll see it vary from quarter to quarter, season to season, year to year with the Fire Smart program. Again, based on more so opportunities that are presented to them.
Yeah, I think a piece to it too is that there's Fire Smart support available through the regional district for community associations, and District of Sechelt has a load of community associations, and then each electoral area usually has a community association, but we don't have any for whatever historical reasons. So I've just, even at the regional district table, I've been encouraging, well, can we work with churches? Can we work with, stratas? And that's, another, I know another leader on Fire Smart protection in Gibsons has been the St. Bart's Church too, as well as, some stratas, Councillor D'Andrade.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a follow-up to this question. So the community assessment, the wildlife mitigation program, and the mitigation treatments, they would be done just by the SCRD or in conjunction? Who is the leader in this, or the fire department?
It's a bit of a loaded question, so let me do my best to answer. The Fire Smart program is through a provincial grant, the Communities Resiliency Investment, and the local municipalities, including the town, are partners in that program. So we have SRD staff, and in this case, a Fire Smart coordinator who has a small army team that works with him to try to approach this regionally, including engagement with our member municipalities, our local partners. And one aspect of that is the Community Resiliency Committee, Wildfire Resiliency Committee that they have, which will get input directly from the local governments on higher priority areas or how we want to tailor our applications and what field treatments would be important in local areas.
Councillor Thompson, do you have any questions? No? Okay. Okay, thank you for the report. Chief Michael.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time, because that'll probably be next week or something, Q4, right? It just feels like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And our agenda says Staff Sergeant Prunty will be with us, but instead we're graced by the presence of Sergeant Newman. So welcome, Don Newman.
Yeah, Staff Sergeant Prunty, since we're done, she's unavoidably absent for today. You guys have a copy of, sorry. You guys have a copy of the report? Yeah. Yeah, I'll just touch on a few of the, I guess, the things that might stand out. There's the normal variation from quarter to quarter that we see, which is fairly typical in crime patterns. It tends to be cyclical. There has been an uptick in some property crime. You see shoplifting, theft from autos. Shoplifting, it's hard to really put a reason behind that. Sometimes that's socioeconomic. Other times it's more organized. The thefts from auto can be attributed to, we believe, most of those a single entity, which we've addressed through the courts. So hopefully we'll see a decline in Q4. You'll also see mental health, an increase in that, and as the qualifier at the end kind of indicates, we changed our reporting practice, and so it's not that there's more mental health calls, we're just capturing it a little differently. There is an increase in check well-beings, which tends to relate to mental health. That's not a reflection of the change in process, so I have no explanation why that went up, but we have, as I think across the board, mental health continues to be a significant part of policing in 2025.
Absolutely, as we see all over the province, that was a big theme at UBCM. It might have been the biggest one, really. And we've seen in newspaper reports that of communications that the RCMP has released about incidents that have happened in Gibsons as well, with a repeat offender and the mental health connections to that. So I appreciate the RCMP communicating that publicly a little more, because it really does affect our whole community, and it's something that a lot of the whole social system needs to look at, including the health system especially.
Yeah, it was definitely stepping outside our comfort zone with that. Some people are for the open communication, some people are against, but I think that incident and others have been very visible in the community. I don't think it's a secret to a lot of people, but yeah, no, it's a process.
Questions from council? Councillor DeAndretti.
Thank you. Thanks for the report. With regard to other occurrences and property crime, it seems there's a relationship with the weather getting better. Is it true, or it's just coincidence?
No, I don't think we tend to see a seasonal. No, I don't think that tends to be, unfortunately, property crime, sometimes a crime of opportunity, but it's also a crime of desperation in a lot of times, and that desperation isn't seasonal. So we don't tend to see that as a connection.
Okay, well, thank you for joining us, Sergeant Newman.
Thank you.
And next we have Planning and Development Services. I'll go to our staff table for the introduction of that report.
Thank you, Mayor. So this quarter in the planning department has been primarily on completing the Housing Accelerator Fund initiatives, which is the zoning bylaw and the OCP. And table 1 in the staff report shows the housing target growth under the Housing Accelerator Fund. And we are down from our target. So this quarter, up to Q3 and this year, we've created 11 new housing units. So for a total, since we received the fund, we've produced 124 housing units, and we're supposed to be at 164 housing units by the end of the year. So we're short 40, but we do have 2 significant building permit applications in that are being currently under review. So we're sharing that information with CMHC. And then I won't go into detail about much of this. Another highlight would be the Accessibility Advisory Committee. They're meeting the week after next, I believe, and to present the Sunshine Coast Regional Accessibility Plan. So staff from the Town of Gibsons, SCRD, and District of Sechelt have been working together with their consultant and that advisory group, and the report has come together, and so it's going to be presented shortly, and hopefully will get endorsed by the committee, and then we'll come back to each municipality and board. Development applications have come down, so it's kind of been a blessing with all the work in the policy that we've been working on. In terms of the building department update, they have been busy, but they've received 9 applications with a total construction value of $8.2 million, which sounds like a lot, but one project stood out as $5 million. So not a lot of development applications, but significant construction value. And then in terms of the bylaw enforcement update, I think the key message in this department has just been the huge number of complaints that have been coming in, and we continue to see the number of complaints increase. So there's an update, a quick update from my department. Thank you.
And again, I don't really see any patterns in these complaints. They're like all the way from horse manure to, yeah, hedge too high. Yeah. Are there any patterns emerging that our bylaw enforcement officer might like to highlight?
Thank you, Mayor. No, not really. They're all over the place. Traditionally in Q3, then summertime, we see a lot of complaints about highway use. This quarter was 56. I actually think it's a testimony to our residents who care enough about the town to call us when they see something that's not right. So it's all good.
Councillor DeAndretti.
Thank you. I'm just curious about cannabis plants, because I think people are permitted to grow some, right? But I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah, there's a provision in the Cannabis Act that prevents plants from being seen from a public place, and that's what this was. So it would have been a police matter, but we were on site anyway and able to deal with that.
So just to confirm, the public is someone walking the street, because I imagine with more density, the neighbor would be able to see it, but that's not included. It's just, I'm just curious with how this, it's just the people passing by.
Yes, so it wasn't something that I was aware of too until it was brought to our attention, but it is in the Act they cannot be seen from a public place. And in this case, it was from a public parking lot in somebody's yard.
Councillor Thompson.
I feel like the uptick in complaints is also evidence that people feel like there is an effect in calling the bylaw officers too, that something gets done about it, you know?
Yeah, I would hope so. I like to think that we would respond to everything in a timely manner and deal with it right away and move on to the next one.
Are there any other questions on planning and development? Councillor Thompson.
With the housing targets with CMHC, do they ever give you any feedback if this is something that's happening in municipalities throughout BC? Because I imagine it's just not a Gibsons situation.
Economic situation, yeah.
Yeah, so through the mayor, it sounds like this is not just a Gibson situation. It is a market consideration across, definitely across BC. I'm not sure if it's across Canada. Yeah, so we're not alone. So that's why I did mention the two big building permit applications that are under review. Their advice to us was to share as much information about the developments that council has approved that are out of council's hands now and into the developer's hands, because council has approved quite a few significant projects that we're just not seeing get built.
That feedback.
Okay, thank you. And now we are on to the Infrastructure Services Department Q3 report.
Thank you. Just briefly, the Q3 report touches on everything that we've, as a department, tackled in Q3, including updates on staffing, strategic priority projects, policy projects, and added a couple of new sections specific to grants that we have applied for, and in the future, that's where we're populating grants we've received. And there's a new section in there as well on the asset management planning work that we've done in Q3. That's a reflection of having the new manager of infrastructure assets in that dedicated role, and just kind of briefly touched on what's happened in Q3. You'll see a little bit more in Q4 on work there, as well as our resiliency projects, development servicing, and then the operations of our wastewater, water, drainage, transportation, parks, and facilities functions. Keep it to a really high level, strategic plan, priority projects, the update to the aquifer protection policy. We received the comments from the technical review that was approved the last time we were in front of committee with that, and we're working on getting those comments incorporated into the updated draft bylaw and for a legal review in anticipation of coming back to council in the coming month or two. The strategic plan includes improvements to the Five Corners, and we've been supporting a grant application for some improvements in there, which would include potentially the bathroom project as well as stairs from Marine Drive down to the foreshore walk. And the One Water Strategy implementation plan, which is on the council agenda, which we'll circle back to, touches on a couple of the priorities as well. And with that, I guess maybe just the only other thing I'll touch on is the progress on a couple of our major capital projects. The centrifuge project, all of the new equipment was installed in Q3, and then an update that I can provide since Q3's ended is that it was commissioned last week, and the new centrifuge is continuing to operate. So with all indications that it's been a successful commissioning, and that should be in place for years to come now. And the other major capital project that progressed substantially in Q3 is the improvements on Sharman Creek. There's a few photographs in the report. At this point now, the project is more or less substantially complete, pending a review from the engineers with the contractor, and happy to answer any questions on that or anything else within the quarterly report.
Okay, council. Questions, Councillor DeAndretti?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, first, I just want to acknowledge that for a department to function with 6 vacancies, it's probably really tough. Thanks for our CEO that jumped in, but still. And I'm just wondering if the fact that we increase the salaries, at least for the unionized staff, and I understand there's reorganization being done in the department, which I think is also wise. But what other factors are impacting? Are people applying for jobs, or is it the problem with not finding homes, too expensive? Is it still the same, or? Thank you.
We do have an HR section of one of the other reports, but we'll see what, yeah.
Sure, I think it's varied. I think certainly there was a unusual amount of turnover earlier in the year, which were for a wide variety of reasons. There wasn't, I don't think, any single issue that we could point to. The ongoing vacancies, part of that has been tied into our restructuring and just wanted to make sure that we were putting out the right postings at the right time. And then another one of the positions, the wastewater operator position, we filled it, and it just turned out it wasn't a good fit with that person, and so we've reposted that. So recruitment's underway. It seems to always be, and certainly I'm sure Sophie could elaborate, or if she's going to touch on that in her section of that report. It can kind of be a bit of a crapshoot on what you get for a response. You can put a posting out and get limited response, and put the same position out 6 months later and get 4 really good candidates. So there's some unpredictability to it.
Thank you.
And some of the vacancies have been kind of strategic too, right? As the restructuring of the department settles, I think is my understanding. But those postings have gone out now, so we're looking forward to having a full complement under the new structure. Any more questions, Council? Okay, thank you. And now we're on to our Corporate Administration and Legislative Services report for Q3. What is our CAO?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll just open up for our department. As you just heard, I have spent a bit more time in infrastructure than on corporate administration. Just want to acknowledge that, and also acknowledging that Rebecca's not here today. She's taking a few days, but you can see that she's got a lot of work there, and myself or Tracy are happy to respond to any questions you might have about what she has summarized there. I also would want to highlight on the report, Tracy and Bronwyn are here both today, and I wanted to suggest that Tracy maybe give a highlight on the EOC program, which is something we are quite proud of. We have a functional emergency operations center next door that we had a very successful training session. So I wanted to perhaps ask Tracy to update council on that, please. And Bronwyn, on the website, if you could give us a little bit of, to highlight some of the changes there. There have been quite significant amount of work there too.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. So yes, we held a 2-day training session for emergency operations in our new facility next door at 494. 16 staff were put through, as well as the emergency coordinator, the new emergency coordinator from the SCRD, and Squamish Nation as well, their coordinator. We did some scenarios, I guess, and put us through our paces and learned how to use the forms, and it was quite a interesting afternoon, or 2 days, I guess. Yeah, it was really nice to see everybody working together and learning how to handle an emergency situation, and just building capacity within the town staff, and working and learning who our new partners are in the field. So it was great.
That's terrific. Councillor D'Andretti.
Thank you, Mayor. I see it's actually page 75 of the report, And it talks about the incident reported on 2020, the Q2, and now continuing on Q3 about abusive behavior from members of the public towards front desk employees. Hard to think, I mean, everybody I know here is so nice. It's hard to think the reason why, but is this something that just happened in the last 2 quarters, or this is a trend that is happening over the years? Because this is the first time, really, that I have been hearing about it, like last time and this time. So,
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Unfortunately, that's part of the trend that Staff Sergeant Newman was talking about, or Sergeant Newman. And we've been ourselves in the library and other public facilities have been on the short end of that treatment, and it's certainly a bit disconcerting. It's mental health, but it's also other socioeconomic issues, political statements, and I think we're here, we're visible, and we're accessible. We have a very disarming front counter, and it makes it easier for people, primarily seeing single individuals clearly having challenges beyond the town. We simply are cut in the middle of that, and it's not, sort of quasi-violent or aggressive behavior. It's not specific to an action of the town so much as what we might represent to those individuals. But we will obviously work with the RCMP and mental health support and other, and try to obviously support our staff. I think we have to do a little more on the front counter in terms of giving people a bit more of a stronger sense of security. But that's a work in progress.
Thank you. Other questions? Okay, we will move on to the Finance and Human Resources Department for Q3.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have anything myself to add to that report. Happy to take any questions. However, I would like to give Sophie, our HR manager, a chance to comment on her section of the report.
Thank you. Hello. Sure. Thanks, Michelle. Thank you. Hi. So yeah, lots of activity happening in human resources through Q3. I won't spend too much time talking about the details on the first page there. I know we're going to have a separate presentation where I'll talk a little bit more about that performance program that we've developed. So I'll just skip that for now. We have been working on developing people policies and procedures. Most recently, we created a leader's guide to workplace accommodations, made some updates to our short-term disability application kit, just building that HR function and making sure that we have the processes and systems in place to serve the organization. Were there any specific questions? I know previously there was a question about kind of themes coming out of retention.
Yeah, I think that might have been answered in the specific infrastructure services challenge. Councillor DeAndretti?
I just want to say that I'm pleased to see that. I know the human resource, coordinator? No, manager. Sorry about that. Has been trying to do this for a while, but there was other work in front. I mean, this is very important for, even to maintain the employees at a long term and, to value their work and allow them to grow. So I'm very happy. Everything that has been done, even the first aid area, all these are so important. And I'm glad that we are getting to this point. So, and I look forward to hearing the details of the Elevate program. Thank you.
Councillor Thompson?
Mine was more for our CFO. It's good to see that our property taxes, where we sat on delinquent percent, is at the percent that it's at, which is pretty much maintaining. So just based on economics, that's on the front of everybody's minds that we held there.
taxes and utilities owed have gone up a little bit, but not a lot. They certainly don't leap out. And on the other side of this, yeah, I would also like to compliment some of the staff, particularly the finance manager, Katie Allnut, for the efforts on collecting delinquent amounts from 2023. So, I mean, we have an informal policy, which is no tax sale is a good sale. We really don't want to sell people's properties. So but it does take a lot of work. And as you can see yourselves, there's always ads from many local governments with many properties to sell at auction. And I'm just really pleased for the town that it's tracking along multi-years since it's had a sale. Thank you.
And now we'll play musical chairs again. So we're up for our natural asset technician for item 4.5, which is participation in the Canadian Protected and Conserved Areas Database.
Tracy, maybe if I'll ask if you can invite the participant. Sorry? Invite Sam in.
And we have an online participant here. We're just trying to get sorted.
She's going to do her presentation. Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Sam from the Howe Sound Biosphere Region Initiative Society, she will be doing a presentation on other effective conservation measures. There's a bit of it. Hi, Sam. We can see you. Just a bit of a background from the town's perspective. This is a commitment to that the Canada has for their biodiversity goals for 30% of lands by 2030. Maybe I'll let Sam explain it all. But Howe Sound Biosphere Initiative came to the town and requested that and asked if we wanted to work with them on this project. And so I'll let Sam explain more about it and happy to answer any questions from the town's perspective after.
Thanks, Michelle. I'll go ahead and share my slides here. Hopefully everyone can see. Okay, there we go. Okay, good afternoon, Council and Mayor. I'm Sam Wing. I'm the OECM Project Manager at the Acatsam Howe Sound Biosphere Region Initiative Society. I'm presenting today about conservation areas recognition within the town of Gibsons. So just to set the context, like Michelle started to there, this opportunity and this project really stems out of the international and national target of protecting 30% of lands and waters by 2030. And Canada committed to that target in 2022 at COP15. And so progress towards this target in Canada is tracked in the Canadian Protected and Conserved Areas database, which is shown on the right here. And currently Canada's at about 14% of their terrestrial environment protected and about just under 16% of the marine environment. And so essentially, at a regional level too, in terms of the management of the Acatsam Howe Sound Biosphere Region, this is also one of our objectives in our Nipmuc Unity Plan is implementing this target on the ground. But really it's also an opportunity to recognize the natural assets in the region. And mostly that's looked like working with the municipalities in the region towards recognizing their lands and contributing them to this database to contribute to this target. So essentially, just at a high level, two different types of lands can be submitted to this database. There's protected areas, of which there's many different types under the IUCN definitions. And, those are lands like often thought of as national parks and provincial parks, but many different types of lands that achieve biodiversity conservation directly through the way they're governed, etc. And then a relatively new concept in the last few years is other effective conservation measures. And essentially, those are other types of lands that are governed and managed in ways that achieve biodiversity conservation in situ, despite that not necessarily being the primary objective of the land in the way that they're zoned and governed. So this can often look like parks, for example, that are zoned more so with a focus on recreation or, etc. There could be everything from, like, there was a case study of a privately owned cemetery on Salt Spring that was recognized as an OECM, like all sorts of different types of lands. But really the main thing is that both of these types of lands have clearly defined geographical boundaries, are achieving in situ conservation of biodiversity, prohibiting actions incompatible with this conservation, and are intended to be protected in perpetuity. And so what this work has been looking like in the Howe Sound region, and in this region and everywhere in Canada, all different types of landowners can submit or consent to submitting their lands to this database. And it's really a recognition. It doesn't come with any like legal designation or anything like that. And organizations like the Howe Sound Biosphere Society and BC Nature have been supporting municipalities in the last couple of years in registering their lands. And so in 2024, we saw 35 parks from Bowen Island registered in the database, some lands in Lions Bay. A little outside of the biosphere region, there were protected areas registered in Whistler, as well as in Metro Vancouver. And just recently, 32 parcels of lands were registered in the District of Squamish, which will show up in the database next spring. And so really there's quite an important role of local governments in this work. Of course, in terms of the climate target itself, all participation by all levels of government is essential to actually achieving the commitment. But also, as you know, and the town of Gibsons has done such a great job at highlighting their natural areas and their natural assets and, prioritizing the protection of them. Municipal natural areas are really rich biologically and really important for ecological connectivity and adaptation to climate change. And so this is an opportunity to essentially recognize good management practices and recognize this priority of protecting natural assets. And this registering of lands at the municipal level in Canada's Protected and Conserved Area database has been underreported overall. And yeah, so the benefit here from the local government perspective is, not only getting to contribute to this global and national climate target, but also, raising the profile, like I said, of good management practices, of, conservation, fostering collaboration between local governments and conservation organizations, and providing support for future seeking of resources around conserved areas. And in the case of the town of Gibsons, there actually are no lands currently registered in the Canadian Protected and Conserved Areas database. You can see here that there's some pretty close by in the green. Those are OECMs that are most likely old growth management areas that are currently in the database. And then there's some protected areas that have been registered just over on Keats there. And so every bit counts. The lands that are being considered, as Michelle wrote in her report, are White Tower Park is notable, as that would be a great way to recognize the natural asset management work at the same time with the stormwater ponds happening there. And then we have some other parks and lands of interest to first find out if they're eligible to be registered. And then even if it's just a small amount of hectares in the grand scheme of things, every bit counts, and it's a great way to recognize the town. So that's it from me, and just a kind of a quick overview. And if there's any questions, I'll stay online here. Thank you.
I'm I'm really happy to see this going ahead, and that just this opportunity to align with the Biosphere project with recognizing some of our protected areas, because it has been an ongoing conversation for years in our town about recognizing our protected areas. So this is a really great, more formally recognizing them, a really great opportunity to do that. And I know just, even recent weeks I've had, but it's ongoing over the years, community interest expressed to me to how can we recognize White Tower Park and also the Charming Creek Ravine specifically were brought to me And at the time, I had to say, well, I think our parks strategy is coming up in the spring. We're looking at a parks master plan, but this is another way to recognize those now, and I love being able to do it with the in alignment with the Biosphere project. Yeah, just one. Guess this wasn't in the presentation, but I do see Charming Lands Ravine as kind of has a disclaimer of consistent with the 2025 OCP update in the staff report. But I want to be clear, it's currently zoned as protected area. I've been telling everyone in the public that because it's true. It is. The current zoning is as a protected area, and we're just maintaining that in the new OCP. So I've had to repeat that over and over again to people who are concerned about it. So I want to repeat that again just to make sure that's clear. Are there any questions for our presenter, Councillor DeAndrade?
Thank you. Yeah, one of the questions I was curious why just the ravine was considered and not the entire area. Or maybe if the parts of Gibson Creek that is in the town, if could be also included, why it hasn't been, And I think my next question is, so if we are preserving or conserving biodiversity in those areas, what do we do with the impact of buffer zones on those areas? Are we having, I understand this is not a regulation, but are we having education as well in this regard? Is there any repercussion in this regard?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So back to the first question about why just Charmin Lands. One of the alternatives for the recommendations is that council may direct staff, it says may direct staff to omit any of the listed sites, but there's the opportunity for council to bring forward other areas. The reason why Charmin Lands Ravine was highlighted instead of just Charmin Lands was because at the time when I was writing the staff report, the OCP and zoning were under review, and I would admit that I wasn't part of that process, and so I've since connected with the planning staff, and I was looking at the area that is now, conservation and open space, and that follows like the top of bank, I believe, of the ravine, and so that would be in alignment with the proposed zoning change. But council is more than welcome to direct staff to assess and register the entire parcel.
Then we'd have to change our zoning bylaw because it's not currently like that. But
except, can I ask a question about that? So because again, I wasn't involved in that process. So the other part of Charmin Lands that is outside of that open space and conservation area or zoning, what is the other section zoned as or proposed to be zoned as?
It's proposed to be zoned as park.
Right. And my understanding, through you, Mr. Mayor, my understanding, Sam, is that it doesn't matter the designation as long as it's a civic-owned parcel.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds like it could work, and we would dive.
Maybe we should bring a whole bunch of other parks into it too, though. But I'll go to our other staff about because this might have far-reaching implications. I feel like it's easiest just to do our protected areas that are kind of aligned with our natural assets strategy, but I'll go to our Director of Infrastructure Services.
Thanks. I just needed to raise the point that the wastewater treatment facility is on one of the parcels there, and so I don't think we want to register that as a biosphere area, although maybe our operators may have a different thought.
Let's stick with the recommendation. Any other questions? Councillor DeAndrade?
It's just the question of buffer zones, which will be anything outside if there is some guidelines as well in this regard for all the OECMs.
I can speak to that. There are not guidelines specifically. Where we started the OECM work was connected with the buffer zones of the biosphere region, actually, but most of those in all of Howe Sound are provincially owned. And so that was kind of a separate assessment. But as far as the actual recognition, there's no real guidelines or kind of criteria in the registration process about the lands immediately adjacent, though depending on what those lands are, like such as if they're already protected areas, that would, if anything, strengthen the rationale for recognizing the lands as OECMs or protected areas.
Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, I'd like to move the recommendation and yeah, it's great. Let's keep continuing the dialogue on this because this is so positive, so.
Thank you. I'll second that. Any further discussion? All those in favor? The motion carries. And moving on to item 5 is to announce the regular committee of the whole meeting. The next one is to be held on November 18th, 2025 at 3:30. And now we need a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor DeAndrade. All those in favor? Our committee of the whole adjourned, and we'll take a break and move back to our special council meeting.